Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It's 9 o'clock on a Monday. It's time for a 5x5. This is where I take 5 subjects related to magic. I spend 5 minutes talking about each subject. I then move on to the next subject. It's always quick. It's always snappy. You never know what you're going to get. Now today we're doing a slightly different 5x5. Recently on the channel, I've been doing something which has become really popular, which is where I've kind of taken a deep dive into a particular magician's set of tricks. I asked them to perform 5 of their favorite tricks. It can be tricks they've performed themselves, they've created themselves, somebody else's trick, and I just get them to perform it to camera, and then I talk about why it was such a good choice. And I find it really interesting to look at the favorite tricks of magicians, whether they're amateurs or professionals. I always like to know the type of magic that people like to do. And I've done these videos recently with people like Wayne Goodman, Lord Harry Harrington, Nemid Phoenix, and they've proven very popular. Well, today I'm going to do a slightly different approach to that. I'm going to examine 5 tricks from 5 different magicians, some amateurs, some professionals. Let me explain. Recently, for Ryland's 10th birthday, I went to a Newmarket Magic meetup, which was organised by Wayne Goodman. And basically, Wayne hired a venue and just invited a whole bunch of people there all day. And people were sessioning and showing each other magic. And it wasn't really a formal convention. It was just a meetup, but you know what? It was super fun. There were about maybe 30 or 40 people there, and there was a real eclectic range of people in that room. There were professionals. You had people, like Oliver Graham. You had people like Oliver Tabor, Liam Ball, Wayne Goodman, John Carey. The list went on and on and on. Real great magicians, real pros. But then you also had people who had never performed on stage before. People who were very new into magic. And what was really nice is everybody was on the same level. They were all showing each other magic and having a great time. And there was a show at the end. And some of the people that were on the show had been performing for years. Other people were going and performing in front of people for the first time. And it was a real positive, encouraging vibe. I want to say congratulations to Wayne Goodman for organising this event. And I'm really glad he's planning on doing it again next year. And it was Ryland's birthday while he was there. And everyone made a fuss of him, and they had a cake and everything. It was just amazing. Really, really great. And while I was there, I went round and I asked various different people to show me some of their favorite tricks, or show me one of their favorite tricks. And I videoed them all. And what I'm going to do I'm going to do 2 of these. I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to do another 5x5 in a couple of weeks' time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you some of the video performances that I got at this Newmarket meetup. And I'm going to talk about the tricks that they did and why it was a good decision to do those tricks and what made it such a good trick. And I want you to understand that some of the people that are going to be on these videos are beginners, or maybe they're very new into their magical journey, whilst others are more experienced. And it was great to see such an eclectic range of people, and as I say, such a supportive environment. And I thought it'd be really nice to do this, because I think that we learn so much from watching what other people perform and how other people perform, right? So that's the purpose of this video. And I got loads of different videos from loads of different people. So I'm gonna play 5 this week, and then maybe in 2 or 3 weeks' time, I'm gonna do the other 5. So this is 5 tricks from various different people at the Newmarket meetup organised by Wayne Goodman. And we're going to have a look at the tricks that they did, and then we're going to talk about why I was such a big fan of that trick, because they all did such an amazing job. So without further ado, let's get to it. So the first person that I want to talk about is somebody you're going to be seeing an awful lot of in the coming weeks and months and years. And this is Magic Maisie. Now, if you don't know who Magic Maisie is, she's a 13-year-old girl, and she is an incredible magician. I've seen her perform several times now on stage and close-up, and she's wise beyond her years. She's very knowledgeable. Her stage presence is great. Like, she carries herself really well, whether she's doing a performance one-on-one or she's on stage. She carries herself really well. And you know what? I think that a lot of the time when girls come into magic, they're shoehorned into a particular type of bracket, like, oh, you've got to wear pink and produce butterflies or something like that. She's totally gone on her own approach. And, you know, she performed on stage in in this magic meetup, and she did her occult act. She was doing stuff with Ouija boards and contacting the dead. 13-year-old girl doing that stuff, and she pulled it off. It's a very difficult act to pull off. She not only pulled it off, she did an amazing job of it. And I've become a big fan of Magic Maisie. I think that she's got a very bright future. And the trick you're about to see, I can't think of anybody I've ever seen that does this trick as well as her, other than the person maybe who created it. But even then, I think they're on the same level. If you want to know what I'm talking about, we're going to do a performance of it right now. So here's Magic Maisie. This is shot the day after the meetup. This is at a place called Victoria, which is a really nice cafe. If you're in Newmarket, you should go check it out. But here's Magic Maisie performing one of her favourite tricks.
Okay, so do you know what this is?
Is it like a purse?
Yeah, it's a purse frame with an invisible pouch. Now this trick's all about imagination, so I'd like you to take the purse frame and take out what's inside.
Okay.
And just pop the purse frame on the table once you're done. Perfect. Now what have you got in your hand?
I don't know.
Of course you don't, because it's invisible. It's an invisible deck of cards. So I'd like you to take them out of the box and give them a shuffle.
Okay.
Perfect. And then spread them out on this table. And take the 2 jokers out. Perfect. And as you can see, they're in suit order: hearts, spades, clubs and diamonds. I'd like you to separate them into the 4 suits.
Okay. Yep.
Perfect. And then pick up 2 suits for me.
Okay.
Now what 2 suits have you got?
Hearts and diamonds.
Hearts and diamonds. I'd like you to give me a suit. Perfect. And what do I have?
That's the diamonds.
The diamonds. And we're going to throw them away, and I'd like you to pick a heart card for me. Now what heart card have you got?
A 7.
The 7 of hearts. So what I'd like you to do is fold your card in half.
Okay.
Fold it in half again and pop it inside the purse frame.
So close
Perfect.
it.
And close the
Yep.
purse frame. Now the thing is about this purse, things go in invisible, they come out visible. So your card was the 7 of hearts.
It was. Nice.
Wow.
Wow, nice one.
Well done. Fantastic.
So if you don't know the trick that Maisie just did exceptionally well, and I do want to say that was an incredible performance. That was Wayne Dobsons' Invisible Deck routine. Slight variation of the way Wayne did it, or at least the way that I saw Wayne originally write it up. I think it's a variation of the original, because when I saw Wayne originally do this, it used a dual reality type thing. It was like an instant stooging type thing, and it used a thumb tip, a modified thumb tip. This method doesn't use that at all. I think it's a later method that Wayne came up with, but it's an incredible routine. I do a lot of magic with purse frames and invisible purses, and they always capture people's attention. You know, when you bring something like that out and say, hey, this is an invisible purse, it's a purse without a bag, people immediately are captivated, and I think having that hook line is really important. But then, you know as well as me, the classic invisible deck presentation has always been like really commercial. You know, it's why so many people do the classic invisible deck routine. Well, this combines the original classic invisible deck routine, but what makes it better than the invisible deck in many ways is there's not even a deck of cards in play. You know, you've got this invisible deck. It's not like there's another deck that you're going to bring out later on. You've got this invisible deck. They're taking the card, they're folding it, they're putting it in the purse. She's got that lovely moment where she says there's nothing in the purse, and then she immediately opens it up and brings out the card. And trust me, when you see that moment, it's killer. Do not underestimate how strong that is. From the audience's point of view, they had a free choice of any card. They could have named any card. This invisible purse has been on the table the whole time, and they just open up the purse. It's seen empty, and then immediately the card appears. This is a super commercial trick, and I know that Maisie looks at this as one of her signature tricks, and I can see why, because she does it really well, and I can imagine her like closing a set with this. It's so strong. And I think if there's one thing that we can learn from this, it's that we stand on the shoulders of giants. And, you know, we look for the latest and greatest magic trick, but sometimes the tricks that came out many, many years ago are just as strong, if not stronger. And this is an example of one of those hidden gems that is just as good now as it was, when Wayne first started performing it. So there you go. That's the Wayne Dobson Invisible Deck purse routine, performed by Maisie, Magic Maisie. Go check her out on Instagram. She's one to watch for the future, let me tell you this right now. We're now going to move on to somebody slightly older, but just as professional. Let's have a look at Liam Ball. So the next person we're going to be looking at is Liam Ball. Now, Liam, the footage you're about to see was shot of Liam performing on the stage show in the evening. So he was performing at the front in front of 30 or 40 people. And I've seen Liam perform before. I've been lucky enough to perform at the Magic Circle with Liam, and I've always been impressed. And the reason I've always been impressed is because he carries himself so well. He calls himself the gentleman's magician. And I've interviewed him on Talk Magic, by the way. If you haven't actually go check out that interview, go check it out. Liam Ball, Gentleman Magician, on Talk Magic. He's just a really talented guy. He's got this very warm sort of personality, and that shines through when he's performing. Now, the trick you're about to see is a rope trick, and it's his version of the ring and rope routine. Obviously, the ring and rope routine was popularized by David Williamson. A lot of other people then started doing it after Richard Sanders brought out Fiber Optics Extreme, where he went through his version of the ring and rope. But it's just such a great trick. Now, what Liam's done is he's taken the ring and rope and he's expanded on it and added many different phases, and the whole thing just flows together. Before I say any more about the routine, let's have a look at a performance of it. So here's Liam performing his one of his favourite routines, the ring and the rope.
Pretty much every way. You couldn't buy this in a hardware store or a DIY store or an online store. You can only buy it, somebody, yes. You can only buy a rope like this in a magic shop. And I'll show why. If you take the middle like this, make a loop, take the end, push it through the loop. When you pull it tight, it ties a knot, yes? Yeah. But because it's magic rope, you don't need the end, you blow. And the knot comes off. It's one of those things that I learned as a child, and when I learned it, I thought it was great, and I did that thing that children do. I did it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And it was around about the time that my parents were throttling me with that rope. I thought, hang on, I think there's something that I missed. There's something unexpected. I went back to the box and read the instructions. I know, you don't believe me, but it's the truth. And in the box, I found this ring, which was a bit weird. And the instructions quite simply said that you place the ring onto the rope, you take the ends, oh, there we go, and then you tie them together. So that what you have is one rope, which is the ends tied together, and the ring, which of course can't come off at all, unless, of course, you untie the ends. Give that a tug, make sure it's nice and tight. Put your happy with that?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Gary.
Gary, I also want you to check the ring, Gary. Gary, I want you to be meticulous. I want you all the way around. Make sure there's no gaps, no trapdoors, no loops, no bits, no cracks. Check that bit there. Because in a second, Gary, it's going to come right off. You're going to miss it when it does. Well, a lot of people ask that question. They think, is it like a puzzle where you kind of have to know how to wrap it round and loop it through? And it sort of is. You see, if I hold the ring above the rope like this, if I reach through the ring, taking a hold of the rope, pulling the rope up through the ring, nothing much really happens. But watch what happens when the ends of the rope pass through the ring. Did you see it happen? That's when the ring goes back on the rope. Isn't that wonderful? Sue would like to hold the ring for me, if you don't mind, Sue. Now, Sue, as I read the footnotes, there was an amazing thing that I discovered in this particular moment here. This is all on purpose. You've got the ring, I've got the rope, the knot's over there. They can all see it. All these other people, Sue, are looking at you. Nobody's even looking at me. I can sneak an elephant in now and you'd miss it. Which means when I take the spares out of my pocket and clip them on the rope over here, they don't see that. And I use the spares to get the ring off the rope while you're holding the ring without untying the ends. Sorry, I rushed that, spares. I always forget that bit. Every piece of magic magician's rope comes with 2 spare ends. They go on over here. So, thank you very much. Now, if I started like this, it wouldn't really have the same kind of effect, because if I just untie, there we go, oh, brilliant. See, like this, it looks like I have 2 bits of rope, and the reason it looks like I have 2 bits of rope is because I have 4 ends. You see the 4 ends, you therefore assume the 2 middles, and that's 2 pieces, but that's wrong. There's only 1 piece of rope. These ends are spares, they shouldn't be there at all. Okay, that's not where they should be. So actually, if I take those ends together, stick them in the pocket, and I have 1 piece of rope that only has 2 ends, there's only 1, you're not following this, are you? I tell you what I'm going to do, I'm going to explain it to you the first way it was explained to me. That might make a bit more sense. You see, if I take this end and this end, place these ends over here into the pocket, what I now have is a piece of rope with no ends, yes? Yeah. Good. Now, if you have a piece of rope with no ends, it becomes pretty useless. I know. For instance, there's absolutely no way that you'd be able to tie a knot in that rope, because there are no ends to tie a knot with. See? Oh. Sorry, that's not in the script. Hell, no. I'm sorry. That's put me. I've done it for. It's been a while. I don't. Is it? No. Oh no, actually, if you remember, you don't need the end. You just blow. The knot comes off. If ever you're in this position, don't worry, look around on the floor for ends. We don't need to, it's fine, I was well trained. I read the notes, it said to put them securely into your pocket. So 2 ends with no rope, 1 rope with no ends, these go together. You wrap this one around this one, and then you twist. You see, it's the twisting of the rope, of course, as we all learn in school, that gives the rope its strength as the fibres wind one. No, really, so that's and of course you've got the ring, thank you very much, I'll take that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a piece of magical magician's rope. It's fundamentally different from normal rope in pretty much every way and can never ever be examined. Thank you very much.
Now, what Liam's done there is he's taken a routine that a lot of people do, the ring and rope, and he's just literally taken it to an entirely new level as far as I'm concerned. That rope routine, that ring and rope routine was beautiful. And if there's one thing that you can learn from watching Liam perform this, it's the importance of having lots of magical moments in a trick. If you're a magician, and you're performing on stage and you want to grab people's attention, it's really important to have lots of moments of magic. Now, not always. There are obviously variations of that depending on the character and the person and the persona and the show and so on and so forth. But this kept the entire audience on the edge of their seats because every few seconds something else was happening, and it became more and more impossible. It built and built. A lot of people that I see do the ring and rope, there's not really an ending to it. It's kind of like, right, I'm going to pull the ring off the rope, I'm going to do it again, I'm going to do it again, I'm going to do it again, I'm going to do it again. That's the end of the trick, thank you very much. But he took that as a starting off point, and then he jumped into kind of fiber optic type sequences, Pavel type sequences, the sort of sequences that you would see somebody like Daryl do. He put all of this together, and then that moment at the end, that's always been one of my favourite tricks, where the ends go in the pocket and they change places, which automatically cleans the trick up as well. This, I do a ring and rope, but I don't do the version that Liam did. I do an actual, the more traditional ring on rope routine that Daryl popularised. And the one thing that I can say, the highest praise I can say to this particular performance is after watching Liam do this, it made me want to go back and revisit the David Williamson style of performing ring and rope. Very, very strong. And you know what? The other thing that you can learn from this performance is, I get questions on this channel all the time about how do I make my tricks play bigger? Or how can I perform a stage show? How do I get a chance to perform on stage? And Liam's performance here, this is something that is technically a close-up trick. You could do this walk around. But he's standing on stage and he's performing it in front of a sit-down captive audience. And this would work for 100 people. This would work for 150 people. Watch this performance again and you'll see that you can take close-up tricks and make them play big to a big audience. It's just about projecting it out and understanding how to make that trick play bigger, right? So when you're putting a stage show together, you don't necessarily need lots of big props and lots of weird and wonderful props. Sometimes you just need to look through your repertoire and work out what routines you think would play to a big audience. Not all of them will, but some of them will. And this is an example of a trick that absolutely plays big. And when you have a routine like that, that's much better, because when you first start performing on stage or in front of an audience, you're going to be nervous, right? Well, by having a trick that you maybe have performed a million times in close-up, it's going to make you feel more confident when you walk out on stage because you already know the material, you know the lines. It allows you to focus more on other aspects. So yeah, an incredible performance by Liam. Absolutely loved it. Let's move on. Okay, so the next performer that you're going to see is somebody who's I met really for the first time or at the Newmarket meetup, and a gentleman by the name of Ryan. Now, Ryan was great, really good magician, very new when it comes to sort of public performances. And you know what, I always say to people, there were people that I asked to do these videos and they didn't want to do it, and that's absolutely fine. But I have to give full credit to anybody that has the guts to go, yeah, I'm going to perform this and put myself out in front of the internet on Magic TV. I really, really, really have to give so much respect to a person like that, because half of the battle, a lot of the time, is just performing. Half of the battle is just performing and just getting out there and doing it. And I've said before on this channel, there's no substitute for flight time. And Liam's going to, you get the video you're going to see of, the video you're going to see at the moment in a second is a classic card magic trick that I think is overlooked a little bit. When it comes to card magic, I think this is overlooked an awful lot. I think it's a plot that isn't visited that often. We'll talk about the plot in a second, but first of all, let's have a look at the performance.
We've got a red deck of cards and a blue deck of cards. I'd like you to pick either one. What would you like to
I'm
use?
going to go blue.
So if you take the blue deck and take the red, and I'm going to do the same as what you're doing. So we're going to take the cards out. We'll get them all, get rid of the boxes, don't need them. So you can see they're all different cards, and you've got all your deck of cards.
Yes.
So just give them a good shuffle for me.
Can't have a shuffle like that.
Shuffle however you want, as long as it mixes them up, it'll be good.
I wouldn't say that shuffling was my good point, but I can do that. Okay,
you happy with that?
Yes.
Right, so now we've shuffled each deck, we're going to swap decks over.
Okay.
And what I'd like you to do, and I'm going to do the same thing, I want you to go through the cards, and if you've got a favourite card, one that's lucky to you or something like that, I want you to just take it out and put it face down on the mat. Make sure I don't see it. If you hold them up a little bit, that's it. So whatever one you want, if one jumps out to you, I'll do the same. Right, and then put the rest of the deck next to it. And what we're going to do, so we're going to take your card and put it on top.
Yes.
And I want you to cut the cards roughly in half, and then place the other pack on top.
This pack on this one?
Yeah, put it on top. And then we're going to cut them again anywhere else you like, and put it back on top. So now the cards are all completely modelled in there.
Yes.
I don't know what it is. So now we've done that, we're going to swap back decks. So you're back to where you started with your blue
Yes.
deck. I want you to go through the deck and pick out the card that matches your card that you had.
Okay.
And I'm going to do the same and pick out my favourite cards. Still in it. So you've gone through, you've picked your favourite card and shuffled it into the deck from
Yep.
2 shuffled decks of cards. Guys, we're going to see how well we do with this.
Okay.
This is your favourite and my favourite. So on 3, do you want to turn over your card with me? 1, 2, 3. We end up
Oh my
matching our
goodness.
2 favourite cards.
Well done.
So, Ryan, not Liam, sorry Ryan if you're watching this. Ryan performed Do As I Do. Now, there's lots of different variations of Do As I Do. This is kind of the classic 2-deck Do As I Do routine. And you know what? If I learnt one thing from this, it's a relatively self-working, this trick, right? There's very little skill to this trick. It's self-working. But a lot of the time, magicians will overlook self-working tricks. Oh no, I'm not going to do a self-working trick. I need to have at least 15 sleights in it in order for it. No, you don't, right? If you learn anything from this video, understand that sometimes self-working tricks, as long as they're clearly performed and explained and everyone understands the plot, they can be just as powerful as any trick that uses sleight of hand. And Do As I Do is really impossible when you think about it. From a presentational point of view, it's like, how on earth could you possibly do that? It beggars belief, really, when you think about it. And there's versions of Do As I Do with 1 deck and with 2 decks, and I've seen versions with more than 2 decks. But the point is, it's such a strong routine and always gets a great reaction from the audience because it's something that they interact with. They feel like they're making all of the choices. So when you ultimately end up with those 2 cards matching, it's like, wow, This is impossible. And I think that a lot of the time, lay people can tell when you're not using moves. And that makes it even more impossible. You know, there's no way that sleight of hand can be done here. And yet, look, it's worked. It works every single time. Really killer. So, I love this. Do as I do. You know what? I haven't done Do As I Do for years. And then I watched this and it made me think, you know what? I need to revisit that plot because it is such a strong plot and there's so much you can do with it. And again, my hat is off to Ryan for, you know, putting a performance in that's a really strong performance. And, you know, he didn't have to do that. So congratulations to Ryan. It's a great trick. Do As I Do is amazing. Let's continue now and have a look at another trick from the Newmarket meetup. Okay, so the next video you're going to see is from the legend himself, the one and only John Carey. Now, John has basically created a huge reputation for himself and a massive following. He's literally written the book again and again and again on the subject of card magic. He, you know, is obviously one of the instructors on the net tricks, and I've never heard anybody say a bad word about him. And I think one of the reasons is he's so giving with his creations and his tricks, and he'll help anyone. And that's one thing that I noticed from the Newmarket meetup. He's you know, he's somebody who will sit down with anybody and help them and give them their time freely. And I think it's why he's got a reputation of being such a nice guy. And I've got a few videos of John, which I'm going to be using on the next video from the Newmarket meetup. But this is another one that was shot at Victor Victoria. Again, amazing cafe. And there's a lot we can learn from this trick you're about to see. There's a lot we can learn. But first of all, it's very quick. Let's have a look at John performing this particular card routine.
Hi everybody, I'm with Mr. Petty, the man, the myth and the legend behind the camera, and look at something with a deck of cards on a Sunday morning in Newmarket. What more could you want out of life? Let's see if we can cut to some good cards. Well, the 7's not bad, it was already there. Over here we have a 9, so we're getting better from a 7, Craig. And let's put a random card there. Ah, Jack, you see I'm progressively cutting to higher cards, and finally we're running out of room here. Well, deuces can be wild. So let's see how we did here. We have a 2, over here we have a 4, over here we have a Jack, a 9 and a 7. The fact of the matter is, in poker, that won't get the money, so that's why I don't mess around. And I cut to the 4 aces. Thank you very much.
That trick, right, is a really, really simple way of producing the 4 aces. It's really simple. And I think if there's one thing you can learn from John's magic, one thing that John is really good at is simplifying everything down to its simplest sort of components. And what I mean by that is, and don't get me wrong, I've watched him. John Carey has the ability to do some knuckle-busting sleight of hand if he wants to. He can literally make your eyes bleed with some of the moves he can do. But a lot of the time, he chooses not to do that. A lot of the time, he chooses to do really simple approaches to the plots. But that simple approach is what makes his magic so strong. His ability to simplify and streamline everything and make it simple makes the magic that he performs so easy to follow. And you see this in this video. Now, I know there's going to be magicians that watch this that go, oh, that's too simple. That's really simple. You know, I'd rather do a Sybil cut and this and that and the other. Now, to be clear, John could do that. He could take a deck of cards and do some flippy-dippy stuff and make 4 cards appear. Absolutely. But sometimes, a lot of the time, when you're performing for real people, you need clarity. You want clarity and you want people to really just focus on what you're doing. And this is an example of a way of doing this particular type of card trick that is so simple. And you know what? I've watched John perform many, many times. And I watch him perform and I look at the moves and I'm like, that's so discrepant. Man, that's so discrepant. And I'm like, I'll say to John, does that actually work? He's like, yeah. And he'll perform it to like a punter, a layperson, and they'll be freaking out. And I think a lot of the time, you can, what I'm trying to say here, a lot of the time, you can approach things and you can you can think like a magician, and you can go, well, I'm not going to do this approach to this particular type of trick because it's too simple and I don't think it's going to work. And we do that as magicians all the time. I don't think this is going to work. This is not going to be something that lay people will buy into. I see it all the time. I saw it with the ProCaps reviews. Some people on the Magic Cafe were going, you know what? ProCaps just doesn't work. It won't work in the real world. Well, it does. Look at the live performances. I've had people say Quantum Deck doesn't work, Chop doesn't work, Lux doesn't work, and Keymaster doesn't work. And I see that all of the time. Not just with my tricks, not just with Lloyd's tricks, with everybody's tricks. Oh, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. And it's kind of like they don't go out and try this in the real world. They don't go and attempt it. They just look at it, and based on their experience, they say that's not going to work. Well, if you have that mindset, if you have the mindset of this is not going to work, guess what? It's not going to work. If you go into a situation, even if you go out and perform it, but you've got in your head, this is not going to work, this is not going to work, this is not going to work, it's probably not going to work. But then having that attitude means that you're going to miss out on some amazing tricks that are going to get incredible reactions because you've got blinkered vision. So if there's one thing that you can learn from that performance from John, it's that the magic can be simple and yet still be hard-hitting and still impactful. And I think that's something that we can learn from every single routine that John has ever put out, whether it be a product or a book. He goes for the simplest approach, which means he can focus on presentation, and he can focus on drawing the audience in and getting them engaged in the performance that he's doing. There's hardly anyone in magic that's as good at that as John is. Okay, so the final video that I'm going to show you is of Ryland. You didn't think that I'd actually put a 5x5 up of lots of different people that were at this convention, and Ryland was there, and not have Ryland perform. So this is again outside Victoria. This is to the owner of the restaurant. She actually wanted to see some magic from Ryland. She'd seen Ryland on Britain's Got Talent, and she wanted to see some magic. And she specifically said, "Can I see some cube magic?" Wayne actually rang us in the morning. This is the day after the convention, when we were leaving the hotel to go to this cafe before we left to go home. And he said, "Bring a cube." The owner of the cafe wants to see some cube magic from Ryland. And he grabbed a cube quickly. Now, what you're about to see is a video of, just some really basic cube magic. And it is very, very simple. Now, he does a prediction at the beginning, and he uses my arm. Normally, because my arm has a prediction on it. Normally when he does this, he'll have a photo in his wallet, but he didn't have a wallet on him, or he'll have a mini Rubik's Cube on his keychain that he can actually show. But he didn't have his keys on him either, so he just had a Rubik's Cube. So he just grabbed my arm and brought my arm forward, which is fine, whatever you want to do. But yeah, let me show you the performance of this, and you can have a look at it, and then we'll talk about why I think it's so good.
Okay, so I'm going to show Victoria a trick. Okay, so Victoria, I've got a cube here.
Yes.
Now, if I mix it up, what I want you to do is I just want you to say stop anytime you want.
Stop.
There, one more move, or is that it?
One more move.
One more. So there.
Yes.
We done?
Yes.
Just put that down there. I'm not going to do anything else. Now, if I told you that I knew this prediction like 3 years, I knew this pattern 3 years ago, would you believe me?
No.
Well, I learnt it before that, but my dad got a tattoo 3 years ago, and it's a picture of a yellow block,
Oh my
two
goodness.
green strips, a blue. We've got an orange strip, a green strip, a red strip, a white strip, a green, and then a block of red, yellow and blue, and a strip of white.
That is incredible.
The thing is, it's cute. You said stop whenever you want. It'll be impressive if I could solve this. Watch this.
Go on then.
You got it? Watch. I can solve it like that.
Wow. Yeah.
So, I've got the cube here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it up. And again, I just want you to say stop whenever you want.
Stop.
One more move, or is that it?
That's it.
That's it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this behind my back.
Okay.
Now when you say go, this cube will solve, okay?
Two, go. My goodness. One-handed. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Look, I'll do one last thing. If I mix the cube up like this, and like this. This is a completely different pattern to what you had.
Yes.
Because you can clearly see that there's like nothing else. So what I'm going to do I'm going to take the cube. Now watch this. Should I have a count of 3?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Right. You are incredible. That is incredible.
Is just a very simple cube routine. Really, it's just one regular Rubik's cube, and it's just a matchup style routine with a predicted cube, in this case on my arm, and then a couple of different solves. There's nothing really overly complicated about it, and I think at least one thing that I've learned from watching Ryland do cube magic is that you can keep it simple. Yeah, on stage you might want to have more convoluted approaches and lots of different stuff going on, and that's all well and good, and that's fine. But if you're doing walk around, or you're doing sort of a formal sit down type of performance like this, keep it really simple. You don't have to be overly complicated and have lots of gimmicks and bags with other cubes in and shells and mini shells and all of this stuff. You just need a cube and a prediction, and you can do like a 2 or 3 minute routine that's really strong. And I know there's people out there that don't like cube magic. And what I would say to you in that is that cubes are one of those objects that everybody knows. Kids know it. Adults know it because they probably had one when they were a kid. It's a common object that everybody is aware of. But more importantly than that, it is an object that everybody knows it's incredibly difficult to solve. People know it's possible to solve, but even when it is possible to solve, it takes a little bit of time, and most people can't solve it. So when you actually bring out a Rubik's Cube, instantly people know what it is. Then instantly, when you start to mix it, people know that that's now going to be very, very difficult to solve. And they understand the impossibility of being able to predict that pattern, because there are so many patterns on a Rubik's Cube. And I think it's really important to use common objects. It's why I use AirPods. It's why I use phones. It's why I use Rubik's Cubes, because this is stuff that people are used to. You see a lot of magicians doing magic with handkerchiefs. Well, guess what? 60 years ago, handkerchiefs were very popular. These days, they're not so popular. But Rubik's Cubes, I see it all of the time. Kids playing with Rubik's Cubes on the train, adults playing. I took Ryland and Thea to the Lego Discovery Centre a month ago. And there was this guy that took his kids to there, and he was just sitting there solving a cube over and over again. Speed cubing is a really popular thing. And even if you're not a speed cuber, you're aware that these sort of things exist. And I think that anybody who's not doing cube magic is doing a disservice for themselves, because there is so much you can do with a cube. The other thing that I love that Ryland did is keeping it short and simple. He could have done 15 more solves. He could have done a whole bunch of more fancy stuff with the Rubik's Cube. He kept it really, really simple. And sometimes that's the case. Leave them wanting more. Don't go over the top with stuff. Leave them wanting more. Sometimes I've seen it with magicians that do card tricks, and they'll get asked to do a card trick, and they'll do 15 card tricks. And eventually, their wonder or their excitement teeters off, after they've seen the 15th trick. Keep them wanting more. Keep it really simple. And don't go over the top with the performance. And also finding a signature trick. I mean, Ryland does so much more than Rubik's Cubes, but it's become his signature trick. It's become that thing that people know him for. So he will always have a cube on him, and he's embraced it. So I think there's a lot you can learn from watching that cube routine. And I've had people say to me in the past, I can't do cube magic because my hands are too small. Ryland's been doing cube magic since the age of 6. Honestly, your hands are not too small. So there you go. That is the first 5x5 from the Newmarket meetup. This is the first of 2. The second one's going to come in maybe a week or 2, depending on when we can get everything edited. It'll be the next week or 2. But yeah, I want to say one more time, thank you to Wayne for organising this, and also every single person whose videos you've just seen. Thank you so much for taking the time to put these videos together. I am incredibly indebted in you. More importantly, I'm incredibly impressed with all of your performances. And if I videoed you at the Newmarket meetup and you haven't seen your video being used yet, it's coming soon in the next week or 2. I promise you. Anyway, don't forget, you want to see more videos like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. I'm going to be back again tomorrow with another video. And don't forget, in fact, I'm back tomorrow with the Matchumentary, so watch out for that. And also, don't forget, if you want to join the Netrix, it's www.thenetrix.com, the fastest growing online streaming platform for magicians, and it just continues to get bigger and bigger and better and better and better and better. Guys, thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you again soon. My name's Craig from Magic TV.